coaches propose this schedule, or how did that?
It's something that the whole travel partner concept is actually something that uh, I've been pushing since I got here. It has taken a long time, and it was because I had played in conferences that always had travel partners, and I appreciated the concept so much. I just thought it was much healthier for the players to go out, stay out, and then know you were going to be home, and so that you were really only leaving every 2 weeks, and so it worked, and it works great with the Pac-12 because you have very natural travel partners, and you have an even number, and all those good things. It worked very well with the Ivy League. Because again, primarily an Ivy League's a bus league. But I'll tell you, we used to do crazy things like play Columbia on a Friday, get on a bus to Cornell for 5 hours that night, and play Cornell the next day. So I don't want to hear that you can't handle a turnaround of only 48 hours. You can. That should have never been an obstacle. I think that the biggest challenge for us is that we have an odd number in the conference, and so we don't have really true natural travel partners. But you can still make it work. Volleyball makes it work, and so that it was just I wanted to look at models. How can we do this? And I thought we did it halfway decent last year. Maybe we just got a little bit better rotation than maybe some other teams did in the conference. And then we got a very rough rotation this year, whereas some other teams in the conference got a good rotation. But I'm still not buying that it can't be done. I think it can be done. So we had been pushing for the whole Thursday, Saturday concept, meaning Thursday, Saturday on the road, home Thursday, Saturday. And instead, for whatever reason, the conference office returned us split Thursday, Saturdays. One away, one at home. And to me, that's the worst of both worlds. If we're going to do that, then let's go back to Wednesday, Saturday.
How different is it, though? I mean, if you're going to go from San Jose to Reno, is it that different to go from Boise home? In that same, if you're traveling anyway, does it change it? I guess from a coach's perspective, how much does that change it?
It's more the idea that you get to be at home for an extended time the next time. You're going to have that. Being on the road's rough, but when you're at home, you'd like that to be, a little bit more of your happy space, your happy time. And so this eliminates that advantage of being at home almost, because you're scrambling to fly back, get back from the Denver airport, and then practice and prepare for a game at 1 o'clock the next day. So it's just more that idea that you'd really like to have that home time be a true home time, a home stretch, something the fans can look forward to, something your team knows that they can settle in for a little bit. You don't have to pack your bag again. Since I got in the Mountain West Conference, I don't ever put my suitcases away. There's just never an extended time where you get to kind of chill for a little bit. You're always packing for the next one. And it's that turnaround. And turnarounds, I mean, the back and forth of the Denver airport and all. And we've got it, we're kind of mid-range. How'd you like to be Wyoming? How'd you like to be Utah State? Now, I know that a lot of those teams do charter more often. I know UNLV charters all their women's basketball away games. Big advantage.
Okay. Generally speaking, you've played so many difficult games and you've had so many close, CU and then yesterday especially. Like, big picture, what is the difference, between coming away from close loss and what would put you over the top and winning some of these?
We got to get better offensively. We're just having such a tough time generating points, especially when we have to generate points. When the game's on the line, we really don't have that go-to player. Like we had in Riley Snyder and even Sierra to some extent, because Sierra really knew how to find her shot, her particular shot. And we're just having such a tough time. I feel like we're making good progress in a lot of areas that I've challenged the team to make some progress. And our rebounding, I mean, we're certainly not great, but we're hanging in there. And I think we're getting better offensively, or excuse me, defensively. I think we're making some strides with charge takes and our helps and that sort of thing. The toughest thing for us to guard is what we had to guard against New Mexico, which is that open court athleticism, a lot of space for those kids to work with, and us having to, just cover a lot of ground. And their transition too, which I do think our transition defense has been something that has been on the must-improve list. And it's typical of a young team and a group of kids that are trying to get to know each other, because transition defense is all about communication, and so we're making some progress there. We're just struggling to score points, and I feel like a lot of times we're getting some decent looks. We got to be knocking these shots down. We need to be knocking them down. These are pretty good. They're about the best looks we're going to get, and we're not a great 3-point shooting team, so we can't give in to that. The old coaches saying, "There's a reason you're open." We can't give in to being tempted to, bombs away. So we have to find ways to, we're a pretty good mid-range team. We've got several players that are pretty good at the mid-range game. Not only Camry, but also Milani Perry and Caleb Pilson. Those guys are pretty good at the mid-range game. So we need to be knocking more of those shots down. Taylor Britt's good at the mid-range game. And that's what we're trying to create. And I think we're getting decent looks. Not good enough, but to see Nikki McDonald coming along and being able to actually give us a bit of a post presence, that's awesome. That's huge. I think she's really making some good progress. So we're a little disjointed. We have to find our groove. We haven't found it yet.
Do you have anybody who can get the ball to the rim? Not necessarily as a post player, but the way maybe Sierra did. And because, like in the first half yesterday, I don't know that you attempted a free throw, just because that seems to be something. No, do you have that on the roster?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brent. Everybody gets a certain number of points at the free throw line. And good teams get a lot of them at the free throw line, and we are not generating points at the free throw line. And the only player who's pretty darn good at attacking the basket is Madison Smith, and everybody knows that. So they just if there's a presence there, we're going to struggle. We're working on it. It's on the fix-it list for sure.
Hey, Coach. Tyler Bolden, Fox 21. So you mentioned you don't want to give in to shooting nothing but three-pointers. So then the only logical change then is to shoot nothing but half-court shots.
We're not bad at those.
But no, more seriously, I've noticed that home games compared to on the road, seems like there's a pretty big disparity between that. Can you kind of nail down what exactly is the reason for that?
Well, in New Mexico, that's a tough environment. But I felt like, as I told them before the game, hey, I know this is a tough environment. Everybody knows New Mexico is a tough environment. They get great fan support. They're pretty rowdy. They're certainly right up there with the rowdiest fans in the conference. And and there's a very electric atmosphere, a lot of noise, a lot of action going on in the gym. And then it's the pit, which is just a different feel completely. But there's a reason that you tend to shoot a little bit better at home. That's your comfort zone. That's your happy place. And I think that you always know you're going to be. That's why a lot of times when you do go on the road, you say, okay, we got to get to the free throw line. We've got to generate points other ways. We've got to generate them off of our defense. That's something we did not do yesterday. And I think we missed. Well, I know we missed those points. We only forced 12 turnovers. That's pretty low for us. And we didn't get those usual easy buckets that we get off transition, and so but we're not look at we're to me we're good shooters who could be better shooters if we would spend more time in the gym. If you want to know the number one challenge of being at an academy, it's time. It's time. It's I know what the rest of those guys are doing in the Mountain West, and they're spending a whole heck of a lot more time in the gym than our kids are. Not because our players don't want to be in the gym, but because they just don't have the space in their schedule to do it on a regular basis like everybody else does. And it's the number one. You're never going to become a great shooter if you only shoot in practice. Nobody does.
Going off the New Mexico box, quarter by quarter, you look at it. Good first, not so much the second. Good third, maybe not so much the fourth. Do you believe in the whole momentum thing?
Oh yeah. Momentum's real. And the thing that's kind of frustrating is we've talked a lot about we got to start better. Okay, now we're starting better, and then we got to come out of the locker room and do better. So then we got to go back and say, okay, we got to do better in the second quarter. But I think also though we've got to quit. It's always tougher when you're playing from behind because you're expending all of your momentum energy on getting back into the game. And you want to expend your momentum energy on building leads. And part of what happened against Utah State that was not a good thing was we built those leads, then we let them get back in. And we built a lead, and then we let them get back in. You can't do that. You have to be a team that holds the fort down so you can maintain your lead until you can get your next spurt. Well, all of our spurts against these teams that we've struggled against have been just to get us back in the game. Well, then maybe, you have only a certain amount of, unless you're just having one of those great nights, which happens on occasion, but you only have a certain amount of momentum equity, and you don't want to be using it just to get back in the game. So I think that's essentially what you're looking at, because these are quality teams we're playing against. They're not going to let you sit there and rattle off, 10 points and 12 points often, not without responding themselves, which those guys did.
With Faith Shelton, and maybe this goes back to the academy time thing, are you able to use her the way you ultimately think you're going to use her this year, or are you just kind of is she what she is at this point, and maybe later you'll craft her into something different?
Well, I think that Faith has a couple of really good qualities going for her. She understands the game really well, and she has a skill set that's unusual for somebody her size. As you know, she's size who doesn't really like to play the power game. Is that a negative? Kind of, because we're so limited in having size that can play the power game. But you'd sure like to use that to your advantage. I think we're asking a lot of her. She's now played 3 different positions for us since she got here as a freshman, and she's not had an attitude about it ever. She just keeps on trying to just go out there and do something good. She's learning the game. That there's things she can't get away with, and there's things her game's going to have to grow. But she understands that and is just trying to get better each time out. Do I think that she's capable of more? Yes. But like I said, I think we've asked a lot of her, asking her to play the 3, the 4, the 5, and learn the defense, because our defense is very different if you're a post defender as opposed to when you're a perimeter defender. And she has to use her basketball IQ when she defends on the perimeter. So we've got to let her just have her freshman year. And same with Milani Perry. You can see there's a ton there, but you just can't rush it. It's just too hard. And these guys will be real good players down the road, and we just need to give them their time.
Well, in terms of position, if everything went the way you want it, what would Faith be as a junior, once she's fully ingrained in all this?
I think she'd be a terrific stretch 4. She can hit the 3. She's an excellent passer. As I said, understands the game. And you really want to put your best passing, best know-how, in the post position at that 4 spot, out there on the perimeter, spending, knowing when to go inside, when to be outside. And I think she'd be a great stretch 4 somewhere down the road. I don't think she's a true 3 player. But again, we've been a little thin there, and it's nice. What's nice is she gives us the ability, same with Kayla Pilson, to go big or small. And we needed to go small against New Mexico because they spread the floor so much. So that's why Kayla Pilson moved over to that spot, and Faith moved over and played some 5. But it's all these are really inexperienced players trying to get a lot figured out. So I'm trying real hard to be patient.
And Faith played point guard some in high school, right?
Oh yeah, and she every now and then she still likes to think that way. You notice she takes that rebound, starts up the floor, and then a whole pack of people move in on her, and so she likes that. She likes that. And there's been times we've thought about letting her play it a little bit. And again, because of her basketball IQ, same reason that Jo Hunnemer didn't come here as a point guard, but she was one of the smartest kids on the floor, and so we said, well, gosh, that's where we ought to play her. So I could see us potentially using Faith some there, but I don't think you got to have people that can defend also those positions.
And is Faith adapting well, like to everything here?
I think so. Freshmen, you just nobody's having fun when they're freshmen. They just have to ride it out. It'll change soon. Hang in there.